Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. Welcome back to Only Stupid Answers. If you're just listening to the podcast, we didn't leave. But for those that watch live, we were on break, and now we're back now. I'm your host, DJ Wooldridge. With me, as always, is Roxy Stryer. Hi, Roxy.
Hi, DJ. Didn't even ask you, how's my internet looking? It was not so good this morning.
So far, so good. There might be a hint of a lag, but it's just a hint. So, if I hadn't just mentioned it now, nobody would have known.
Oh, who's to say if it's a lag or if it's a drag or if it's a joke I'm playing on all of you?
Who's to say? Nobody knows. But as always, this is the show where we talk about movies, TV shows, comic books. This week, we're going to be talking about Aquaman 2. We had to wait till after the holidays to talk about it. Because I'll be candid, it was a little tricky to get a screening of it, and having now seen it, I understand why.
Yeah, whoa. I mean, it just, we will talk about it. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. But a little business up top. If you're like watching live, how do I do that? You can do that over at patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. You're able to get these episodes early, ad-free. You're able to get our exclusive content, Patreon exclusive content, what we're into, and SnyderVersity. All that stuff is gearing back up. Sal and I on SnyderVersity, we're about ready to wrap up Spectacular Spider-Man and dive into Across the Spider-Verse. So that'll be really cool. If you want to check that out, do that over at patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. And then, if you're listening on iTunes, give us a 5-star review. And DJ didn't pull up his doc, so he's a little behind for a second. And then every week on Spotify, we ask you a question. I'm combining the last two. What was your favorite movies and shows of last year? Yeshu Wazalewski said, this is for movies, Across the Spider-Verse, The Boy and the Heron, surprisingly, Quiz Lady. I don't even know what that movie is. Barbie
it's the Sandra Oh movie that's on streaming that I just keep seeing recommended for me, and I really should probably watch it. Is it Sandra Oh and let me see it. Somebody else that I really like too.
I don't know, but Sandra Oh's a big sell. I like her and everything.
I know, me too. Yeah, it's Sandra Oh and Aquafina.
All right.
Will Ferrell's in it? All right.
Oh my God. All right. Quiz Lady, Barbie, and Oppenheimer, of course, and of course, Evil Dead Rise. Love that movie as well. Wikiet, Lou, thank you for the pronunciation. Hopefully I nailed the pronunciation you gave me. From 1 to 10, this is TV shows: Succession, Blue Eye Samurai, Scavenger's Reign, The Bear, The Wheel of Time, The Last of Us, The Makani? Reservation Dogs, Demon Slayer, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. It's just a reminder how much shows and stuff are put out, because it's like, what even is that?
It's always super weird when if there's a movie that I haven't heard of, very expected. When there's a TV show that I have never heard anybody mention, I'm like, what? That's my whole jam. I'm looking it up right now. I actually can't even find the Makani. Oh, okay, the Makani Cooking for the Maiko House. So let's see. It was a drama. Two inseparable friends move to Kyoto to chase their dreams of becoming Maiko, but I don't know that word, but decide to pursue different passions while living under the same roof. It was a Japanese show that came out January 12th, 2023. So top of the year last year.
Am I able to watch it on a platform that I have?
It looks like it's on Netflix right now. I'm clicking on it to see. Yep. Okay.
That's interesting. I wonder what could have happened last year that Netflix is putting a lot more international content on their platform. I wonder. Anyway, speaking of content transition, listen, Roxy and I are making a movie together. It's a crime thriller called Gunplay. We're now officially doing the promotion for it after many moons of waiting. If you go to gunplaymovie.com, you can hit notify me on launch so that when it launches, you'll know when the campaign launches and you can be there first day. There will be some launch exclusive rewards. I was just talking about this with Roxy before the show. This is super important because this gives me a good gauge of interest in the campaign before it launches. So not only does it help you, because then the second the campaign goes up, you can be there, get some first day launch perks. We also have some launch goals. So if we hit a certain number within those first couple of days, you get extra stuff. So you get extra things by being there at launch, but it also helps me determine where this campaign can go and what I can expect out of all that stuff. So please go to gunplaymovie.com, click notify me on launch. Also, yeah, I feel like this is a safe space to talk about this. This is a podcast. If you're listening here, you might have been listening here for a minute. I feel like it is safe to say this movie, it's a crime thriller called Gunplay. This movie, I was talking about it with my wife. Literally everything I've done for the past 10 years or more since I've moved out to LA has been going to this moment. So if I have ever once given you an ounce of joy in content, please go click notify me on launch and go back this campaign when it launches. It is quite a big deal to me. On the you side, on what you get out of it, I think the movie's going to be pretty cool. If you like movies like Good Time, if you like Pulp Fiction, if you like even stuff more comedy adjacent like The Big Lebowski, I think you will enjoy this movie. And also Roxy's in it. What's not to like? Plus a bunch of other people: Steve Zaragoza, Brie Essrig, Whitney Moore, a lot of great people. That's my pitch for it. Roxy, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I have a couple things to tack on to that, DJ. Number one, that might be the closest you've gotten to getting me in tears on the show, because it is so effing hard to do what you're doing, and you're doing it, and it is so hard. Okay, but rewinding for a second, I also learned as I've been looking into Kickstarter things that if you don't hit the notify me, then it doesn't help us at all with the algorithm. So even if you like put a note in your phone, okay, check back in a couple of weeks or whatever, it's not helpful as actually hitting notify me, because we'll be pushed up in the Kickstarter algorithm the more notifies me we get. So hopefully people they want to be involved in the campaign and they want to get the perks of the campaign. But even if you're not sure if you're going to support the campaign, still hitting notify me really helps get us to that next step. So that's pretty cool too. And that's a free thing you can do that helps us. That's easy. And share it to your friends as well and have them do that as well, which would be awesome. Yes. And the second part of this is that I love this script. And that doesn't matter to you guys at home right now because you haven't read the script, but it will matter. I think the reason that DJ was so easily able to get all of these awesome people to sign on is because the movie's super fucking good. He wrote it unbelievably smartly. And if you love DJ's taste, you see every bit of that in this movie. So it's really cool. You did such a great job with making it attainable, because I do believe that we could definitely make this, because there's the way that you went about it, the way that we're going about it in the 3 different parts, also with the locations, and using really, really successful people that you already have a great working relationship with, so you know it will go smoothly. I just think that this is more than doable. We are going to do it, and I think it's fucking awesome. So yeah, I can't believe it. And it was really cool, DJ, that you did this at the top of the year. I know you wanted to do it for the last 20 years, but what's amazing is that I think you're ready now. Like, this isn't now, what's going to happen next? We're doing it, period. Hell or high water. That's what's going on. So, yeah, it's just fucking awesome. I'm stoked to be a part of it. And I hope that everybody clicks on the button.
Yes, please. And I'm stoked to have you be a part of it. And thank you for all that. And yeah, totally. I think you're right. I think now, as much as, so for the people that don't know, I did a little TikTok about it. It'll come up again in the Kickstarter video. Originally, I've been working on the script for 10 years. Like, I have drafts of it from like 10 years ago. And then probably longer. Versions of it. There's been a lot of iterations of it. And the original plan was to launch a version of this campaign in 2019. I had to push it to early 2020. We filmed some test footage, and it was one of those, like, we were on set filming test footage as we were all getting notifications like, this place is shut down, this place for COVID, this place is shut down. And we're like, oh my God. This is really happening. This is a big deal, because I think we were part of the group, like a lot of Americans that were like, is it that big a deal? Is it gonna be? And then it's like everything's shutting down. And so, we're like, okay, they're saying we're quarantined for 3 weeks. No big deal. 3 weeks, no big deal. And obviously it was a very big deal. And so now, 3 years later, we were trying to do the campaign last year, and for logistical reasons, we had to wait till after the campaign. So now 4 years after some of these people, Roxy read a version of the script 4 years ago. Some of the actors involved have been attached for that amount of time. It's been a long haul.
But also that ends well for me, DJ, because if this had been 4 years ago, I wouldn't have been involved in the project in the same way.
It was It was a different version of the script, and then this new draft. There was a part that I was like, Roxy would be really great for this.
Big W for your girl. I was like, yeah let's go.
So we're here now. Let's hope nothing. Knock on wood, fingers crossed, nothing major happens, because the campaign's going to launch by the end of the month. Is the goal? We'll reveal this specific date as we get closer. But if you want to know day one, when the campaign launches, like Roxy said, hit that notify me on launch link. Just doing a note to yourself isn't as helpful to us, so it'd be great if you hit that notify me on launch. And more information will be coming soon. We got a lot of exciting things planned, so stay tuned for all of that. Now, let's get down to business to defeat the Huns and talk about news. Beginning of the year, little light on news stuff, except that, oh my goodness, Mickey Mouse, a version of Mickey Mouse, one very specific, Disney will have very specific version of Mickey Mouse is a public domain, specifically the Steamboat Willie version. And I think there was another short that came out around this time that same version of Mickey is now public domain. Plane Crazy, everybody's favorite Mickey Mouse film, Plane Crazy, is public domain, along with a bunch of other stuff that nobody's talking about. But whatever. So Roxy, what Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse themed piece of media do you have planned now that he's public domain?
I mean, I saw legitimately the creepiest photos ever about Steamboat Willie horror. The game development that they're doing with like the teeth all rotted and everything. And you just know there's got to be some kind of Steamboat Willie orgy happening in the future. I mean, I think that I think people are going to get freaky deaky with this, because also I'm confused on the guidelines between, like, is he always Steamboat Willie if he's Steamboat Willie as Mickey? Or does he have to be on the steamboat? Like, what exactly? How far can you push that to just now you're just using Mickey Mouse? And then somebody asked me the other day, they said, is this what happened with Winnie the Pooh? And that's how they were able to do Blood and Honey. And so it opens up a lot of possibilities. And I love public domain things because it saves creators a lot of money while giving them eyes and ears on things. But also, I wish we could trust everybody. Some people are going to do some nasty things with nasty things with Mickey.
I do wish some of the stuff we were seeing was a little bit more creative than what they did with Pooh, which was, what if we did that Pooh thing but with Mickey? And it's like, well, one, the Pooh guys already did it. Two, Pooh's always been kind of like lovable and innocent. Like, Mickey has been the face of a major corporation. Like, South Park has a version of Mickey that's like an asshole, evil guy. Like, that's not as interesting with Mickey. But then I thought to myself, like, wait a second. Superman was created in 1938, so I just have to wait another decade plus, and then I can make my public domain Superman movie. He can't fly. He won't be able to fly, and his costume might not be my favorite, but he's public domain.
Oh my God, I saw the funniest joke this week. Seth MacFarlane was retelling it, but he couldn't remember who initially said it, but he said it was some woman in maybe Australia or something. And she was like, what happened with the first dude? He was so excited about a bird. Like, it's a bird. It's a plane. The first, it's a bird. It's like, you never seen one of those before?
Yeah. We have birds.
Funny, yeah, that's true. I guess that James Gunn has really 10 years to solidify whatever's going on with Superman. Otherwise, he's about to have a lot of creators up in that ish using Snoop to do some freaky deaky stuff. But yeah, I do think that this is cool. It does give creators a chance to use a property that a lot of them probably love to elevate their work and maybe get more eyes on it. But do I really care about Mickey murdering people? No.
Yeah.
Do I really care about a lot of the things I think some freaks are going to do? No, but I would like to see I like Mickey. I like the whole gang, and eventually they'll all be there. So, yeah, it's kind of fun.
We'll we'll get there eventually. I just looked it up. The Fleischer Superman cartoons, which is still one of my favorite versions of Superman, 1941. So I just have to hold out till 2041,
Wow, yeah. Oof,
and then I
that's
could do my own version of the Fleischer Superman. He's got the best costume. He can fly. He's got a lot of abilities. Anyway, we'll
that's
see. And
definitely
also,
the
like,
wartime.
yeah. And but the other thing, and I think these Mickey folks, hopefully they're talking to some legal people, because, like you said, where does the line exist? Disney's gonna know where that line exists, and they're gonna watch it litigiously.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I was listening to this unbelievable interview this week of Cat Williams. Have you been hearing all about this?
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of the whole thing, so I can't even. I was going to pitch you that we talk about it, DJ, but then I was like, I don't even know. I don't know.
I would suggest that you and I might not be the correct ones to. I just know I find Cat Williams very funny, and the clips I saw like that, this is still very funny.
It was truly, truly wild. But the only thing that I'm going to mention right now is he mentions being sued by Disney for he was going by Cat and Hat when he first started, Cat with K, and that he had like just no money, was homeless, going by Cat and Hat, and that they sued him for they sent a cease and desist for otherwise $25,000 or something, and that's why he changed his name, because he was like, oh my god, Disney knows what the fuck. Fine, yeah, have it, no problem, but like, oh my god, that's so much money. And like you said, Disney is Disney. They're just such a beast that somehow, while Cat Williams is homeless, they find him, and they still know, like, don't fuck with our name.
Well, and that's the other thing that these people are probably aware of, because this isn't, whatever. They're probably aware of this, but it doesn't even matter really if you're legally in the clear,
right?
Because Disney has better lawyers than you, and so all that matters is that they can convince a judge or a courtroom or whoever that you're not in the clear. So even if you're obeying the letter of the law. It could still be bad for you. You know what I mean? So, whatever. Again,
not even that, DJ. Not all that matters is they can convince the court. All that matters is they can bleed you dry. And then even if they're wrong, even if they lose, you still have no money left.
Yeah. Yeah.
You still penniless. So,
but I'm going to still be paying attention
to on the steamboat right now, just to not
keep them on the steamboat, and then I'll pay attention to what's happening, so that when 1938 or 2038 rolls around, we'll see what happens. Okay, so as we talked about at the top of the show, we are talking about Aquaman and the Last Kingdom. Aquaman and the last movie in the DCEU. Officially, it's done and buried, everybody. So I've seen this movie. Roxy, you have not.
Yeah, this is crazy, DJ. And I think this is a strong indication of how this movie is doing, that I, Roxy Strider, host of DC Movie News, DC Obsessed, that's my bread and butter, started DC Movie News 8 years ago with the start of the franchise, essentially, have seen and loved and bled and sweat and teared over DCEU. I've been up to date on every piece of news that has come out about this. This is coming to an end. We're starting a new era. And I didn't see this movie. I'm not like doing a hard stance. I'm never going to see Aquaman. It's so not like that. It just was so poorly reviewed and spoken about by people that I trust and love that I was like, you know what? I'm trying to save a bit of money these days. Going to the movies, it's not even just the ticket. In order to try and enjoy this, I'm going to have to get candy. I'm going to have to do parking, which is expensive in LA. This is going to be a $30 thing for me. And I actually am going to just keep my $30 and wait till it comes out.
Yes. And I would love to say, listen, it's worth going to see. It's the last one. I wish they'd thrown any sort of so I've become, it's not even, I'm critical of the Snyder movies, but even beyond that, like I enjoyed the first Aquaman quite a bit. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it had a lot of inventive might be too strong a word ideas, but a lot of cool ideas. Like it just kept hitting you with new interesting stuff. I thought it did. Aquaman's not my favorite property, and I thought it got a lot of mileage out of it. And I thought the cast was good. I like Jason Momoa. I like Patrick Wilson. I like Yahya Abdul-Mateen. I like Amber Heard. I like Nicole Kidman. I like all these people. So I was ready to give this one the benefit of the doubt. And I would love to say that you should do the same. And I would love that, for all the ups and downs, so many downs. It would have been cool if they'd thrown any sort of bone to hey. Not we did, I don't know, hey, it happened, everybody. And it was just such it felt like such a shrug of a movie to the point where, because you'd think that they would go listen, we already have James Gunn locked and loaded. We already have this new one going. James Wan, just go ape shit, man. Just fucking cut loose. Don't worry about it. Do whatever you want because it doesn't matter. Just make a dope movie. And that's clearly not what happened. They're like, it just feels executive noted to death. It literally feels to me, Roxy, that anything that they did not previs 4 years ago, any action scene they did not previs 4 years ago, has been cut from the movie. You know what I mean?
Well, they did a bunch of reshoots too, right?
As far as my understanding, yeah, there's been a bunch of reshoots. There's been a bunch of retooling. This was supposed to come out before Flash. Was it? Wait, because my understanding is at one point it had Michael Keaton's Batman in it, and then they reshot it with Ben Affleck's Batman, and now I can tell you there's not any Batman in it. There's none. There's zero Batman in it.
Wait, are you telling me for serious that no Ben Affleck is in this?
Nope.
Wait, what was up with that then?
I have no idea. What
was up with all the Momoa Affleck press and stuff they did?
I don't know. He's not in the movie. not again. And there's a bunch of voiceover. Amber Heard is in the movie for a couple key scenes. A couple key action scenes, but there's scenes where Aquaman's raising their son, and it's Mira should be here. Mira, why isn't Mira here? And
so I heard on that, DJ. I heard that she is in a ton of the movie, and then I heard that she's in almost none of the movie. I'm confused. She's
in very little of the movie, and she's absent from scenes family personal scenes that the character very much should be there. There are some action scenes where she does have some big moments. And again, it's you previs this, you spent the money to CG it, so you kept it in there. What was more conspicuous to me was, because I don't agree with the decision of cutting Amber Heard out of it, but I at least understand why that would happen. Nicole Kidman's weirdly not in the movie. And it makes me to the point that I wonder if a lot of Nicole Kidman scenes were with Amber Heard being hey, you're a new mom, I'm a mom, let's talk about mom shit. Nicole Kidman's not in the movie. Dolph Lundgren, who you may not remember was Mira's dad, has way more screen time than Nicole Kidman, who is not only Aquaman. This movie's about Aquaman reconnecting with Patrick Wilson's Orm, his half-brother. So you think Nicole Kidman, their connection is Nicole Kidman. You think she'd factor into the movie? She'd be a big part of the movie? She's barely in it.
Do you think there's a cut of this movie, DJ, that had a lot more heart?
Yeah, I would imagine it would have to, because it literally feels and here's the action scene, and here's the next action scene, and here's another, and it's the only moment on an emotion level that works is one, Patrick Wilson is great. I don't think Jason Momoa is doing his best work here. He's just Jason Momoa. It's just Jason Momoa hanging out with Patrick Wilson playing Orm. But the one emotional moment that does work is when they call back to their conflict in the first movie. Go back hey, remember in the first movie how we established that I wanted a brother, but then you hated me. Remember that little emotional beat? And it's yeah, that was a good emotional beat. Well, that's what you're getting in this movie. It literally I'm not kidding. They literally flash back to a scene from the first movie, and it's oh yeah, I like that moment in the first movie.
That's such a weird choice. And also
Yeah.
probably they had to do that because this movie came out 5 years later, so people probably didn't remember what the hell was
There
happening.
is it's one of two things. I think you're right. Like, hey, remember 5 years ago, but also I think to a degree, there's so many flashbacks. I think that it might be to a degree to paper over edits, reshoots, retooling, any of that stuff. It's really it's a really kind of soulless movie. Yahya Abdul-Mateen is great with what he's given. I think Patrick Wilson is really good. And it's probably also because he has the most interesting stuff to do. He was the villain in the last movie. This is him. There's a fantastic moment where like Aquaman's like yeah, I don't even want to be king, and like Patrick Wilson's like, whoa, hold on a second. That whole fight we had where I was king and you stopped me from being king, you don't even want to be king? And he's like, yeah, if you hadn't tried to destroy the surface world, you would have been fine. And it's this moment of like him having to recalculate everything he thought he knew. Orm is trying to recalculate everything he thought he knew about the conflict from the last movie. That's great. And Patrick Wilson's good at it. And it's like, yeah, do more. You have, it's there. And also the plot, what Black Man is trying to do, and the consequences of it. I think they literally say the words, it's super climate change. It's like, oh my fucking God. Oh my God. What are we doing? What's happening right now?
I'm looking at the box office, DJ. It has
please, thank you.
261 million worldwide right now. We obviously know the first one broke $1 billion.
Yes.
I thought this was going to perform a little better simply because not better than the first one, but better than it's doing.
Yeah.
It was came out at Christmas and DC.
A little competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's losing money for sure because with the reshoots and everything. And do you think that this movie, like if you saw this movie, would you have been able to predict that this movie was going to be an absolute bust?
I saw it in like as
like box office wise, seeing this, are you like, yeah, that makes sense that it's not making its money?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, there's conversations that are being had of like, you know, the announcement of Guns movies really killed these, and it's like, one, I think you're overestimating how much general audiences, you know, the interconnectivity helped with the MCU. It definitely added to the sense of that you need to see everything, and that obviously helped. But those movies were well received. The DC movies, the interconnected DC movies, have been consistently on a lot shakier ground. And I would argue, I think you and I would disagree on this, other than Blue Beetle, all of the movies that DC has released post the Gunn announcement, if they were good, I think they would have done good. I think they are bad. In fact, the two of them, Shazam and Aquaman, are sequels to movies I liked. And I was so disappointed in both their sequels that I was like, wait, was I like crazy? Were the other ones like bad and I just didn't know? That's how disappointing these movies were. Like, they're making me rethink. I did a tweet about this, similar to like Wonder Woman 1984. It's like, wait, was I wrong about the first Wonder Woman? Is it rose-colored glasses? I don't think I was. I think those movies were fun.
No.
But it's not just the Gunn announcement. I think a lot of unfair blame is being put on that, and while there's no way around it. Like, we've learned you can't just like, you couldn't have cast the new Superman movie in secret without letting people know, hey, by the way, we're rebooting everything. I think if the movies had been better, it wouldn't have mattered, box office wise.
Yeah, it was always on. We started on shaky ground, so we ended on shaky ground. We started without a plan, so we ended in a weird way. Like, I'm not. It's a double-edged sword sometimes, because I will sit here all day and say hit singles, right? Like, stop trying to make this big thing work when you're not even hitting singles. But at the same time, while we want the studios to hit singles, we also need them to have some semblance of a plan. If this single works, what is next? Yeah. And what never happened here was that Man of Steel happened. There was never another one. That's effing wild. We introduced Batman and Wonder Woman in a movie of not their own.
Yeah.
That's a wild joy. Just all of it, just being super. We did a Justice League movie before we did individual movies for all of the members of the Justice League.
Yeah.
Really wild choice. So it's not surprising to end on shaky ground. I think that there were some really solid movies in here. I really enjoyed everything that had to do with Harley Quinn. Loved Birds
Mm-hmm.
of Prey. I really
Agreed.
loved the first Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah.
I thought that the first Shazam movie was awesome. I thought the first Aquaman movie was super fun. So I think there
Mm-hmm.
were some big highlights in here. A lot of guns being the hope for the future as well that I'm stoked
Yeah.
about. But just in terms of how we're ending the DCU, it's like, well, you kind of get the ingredients you put in. If you're trying
Yeah.
to make a pizza and you're buying shitty ingredients, it's going to taste shittier. Like,
It's just the other thing to me is knowing what we know now. Like they're rebooting it. It's crazy that Flash and Aquaman in particular feel so like the studio was so involved, and it's like you're rebooting, so let them cut loose, let them do whatever they want. You know what I mean? Like what are you trying to protect at this point? Jason Momoa is not going to be Aquaman. This Aquaman movie is not going to connect to what James Gunn's doing. So let James Wong go wild. Like
the script was already done at that point. I mean,
but they clearly if watching the movie, it feels like they really like took a hatchet to it, And so it's like, who cares then? Like,
Yeah,
why?
something to be excited about a little bit because you mentioned him, and I was talking to one of my girlfriends this week. So one of my best friends went to Juilliard, and I didn't know this as she was telling me she was there at the same time as David Cornsweet. And
Oh wow.
I was like, oh, super cool. And she was like, he's really fucking good. And obviously anybody who goes to Juilliard is really fucking good. So it sounds like they got an actor. Like, you don't, for Superman, you don't cast somebody from Juilliard unless you're planning on having somebody who is a classically trained performer, which is cool.
Well, and the stuff I've seen him in, he's great. And I really liked, they're very different tones, but I really liked The Suicide Squad, and I really liked Peacemaker. So I'm personally pretty hopeful about the future. And also, Kayla Marie says, as a DC girl, it's been so sad with them recently. Blue Beetle's the only one where I felt like the people who made it cared and had fun. And I also think it's kind of telling that the only one James Gunn is like, hey, yeah, keep a Blue Beetle probably is going to carry over to, and it's like, yeah, dude, that good choice. That actor was good as Blue Beetle. Keep that one around. Keep that in your back pocket.
So as we are looking forward to things, I've been hearing that they're calling the start of the Gunn era they're saying the Penguin is the start of the Gunn era, which is interesting because the Penguin is obviously connected to the Batman, which did not start in the Gunn era. So that's not his casting. That's not his universe. That's not his world. But that's what the first thing he's having his fingerprint on, because Elseworlds.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? What do you make of that?
That seems weird to me. What I've been hearing, and I think, what you're like, what you're referring to is like he's a part of that production. And what I've been hearing, and I think this is more along the lines of like specifically a part of this universe, which is also a weird starting point, is that Creature Commandos animated series. So no matter how you slice it, odd starting points, either way. But also maybe beneficial in that we're easing in everybody. We're just easing into this new setting. Here's my question to you, Roxy. How much of this new, because I want to be excited. Superman's my guy. Even if James Gunn at least seems excited, and that makes me. I don't think he's done any of his work. I don't think he's done a character that's as openly optimistic as Superman, or at least like less cynical. But he seems dedicated. Like he seems on the ball. I'm excited for it. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to like. Oh yeah, this is great. How much of this do you think we're going to see? You know what I mean? Before Zaslav axes it, or they sell it to a different corporation, and now they want to put their stamp on it. How invested should I get?
Yeah, that is a good question because we're seeing right now the rumors that Disney's going to buy Paramount. There's a lot of different, and that doesn't have to do with Warner Brothers, but just things are on.
I thought it was Warner Brothers that was trying to buy Paramount.
No, I think it's Disney that's trying to buy Paramount. Is it Warner Brothers trying to buy Paramount?
I thought it was Warner Brothers meeting with Paramount. It's all going to become one corporation. Next time we have strikes, people are going to need to pick it like 2 studios.
The monopolies are so real in this town and just in general. But there's 2 different issues. I mean, I'm torn about things like this too, because it's like at the same time, you want all your characters to be together, right? Like in a Dream World, DC and Marvel merge and are all under one parent company so that we can have Iron Man chilling with Batman. Like obviously as a nerd, that's what you hope for, but also you want as many companies as possible so that there is, for 80 reasons, so that actors are getting paid, so they can the studios, there's nobody who's a monopoly and that they're the only shop in town, so that when they don't know what to do with the character, they can't just rely on the fact that it's this IP. They actually have to make good movies. There's a million reasons, but I am curious about what you're saying, because I feel like there is a chance that we are on solid ground with Gunn, that Zaslav picked Safran and Gunn. And that he is going to let them do their thing for the next 5 years. 7 years is what they initially signed, right? It might have been.
That sounds right. That sounds something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. And we might see them really launch Superman, launch Batman, continue with the Batman, and move forward with some of the other Swamp Thing. We had that whole announcement. We might see over the next 5 years solid ground for the DC. What are we calling it? DCU?
I think it is just DCU, which is a little confusing, but sure.
For the DCU. That would be wild and really cool, because I think that Zaslav obviously cares most about one thing in the world, which is making money. And I think James Gunn is capable of making money. So if we see something, if this first Superman comes out, and I'm calling it the first Superman, like that's the title of the.
Yes. Well, but the first one of this new one.
If Superman comes out and it does well in the box office, then I think we're in a really good spot. And I think it's going to do well because we haven't had a Superman movie in 2013.
Yeah, 2013. I think you're right. And when you talk about, is there a question on this? No, there wasn't. Oh, yeah. So this deals with the question, but I think you're right. I think if it does well, before I get into these Discord questions, is there a chance that it doesn't do well because superhero fatigue is real and people are less interested in superhero movies, and because you and I can like parse out the differences between Marvel and DC and all that, but I do wonder if like general audiences are like superheroes are superheroes and I'm just kind of over it.
No, because Superman.
Okay.
Really, like when it comes to Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man, I feel like just the most average person, and this is the rudest phrase ever, but also below average people. I don't mean below average as a human. I mean like below average in terms of knowledge for heroes.
Yeah.
If you say name a superhero, if you just on the street name a superhero, Superman. Name a superhero, Superman. I was watching Family Feud the other day, and it was some question like, which superhero do you most want to hang out with? Superman is the number one answer.
Yeah.
And the next thing, which superhero do you most want to go on a date with? Superman. Which hero would you most want to grab a beer with? Superman. And it's like, Superman's actually not the right answer for that question. But it's just
that's the one that, because for people that don't know Family Feud, it's like we polled these people, they said this whatever, and the first one that came to their mind was probably Superman.
And that's because Superman is the household name. Of all superheroes, it's Superman. And we haven't had a Superman movie in so long that I just don't see a world. I mean, unless this movie is the worst movie that we've ever
No.
seen in comic book history. I think people have been clamoring for a Superman movie for a really long time. I think that they want to see what James Gunn has to do. I think they put in a very good actor who's well trained to be
Yeah.
Superman, who is, people aren't going to be like, oh, we know him from this thing, this thing. He's relatively unknown. It's more about the character than it is about the actor. And I think that Superman is going to annihilate for them. And then that will be the end of superhero fatigue for DC, because then you want to see what they're doing. I could be wrong. I actually thought that Aquaman might make its money back, and I was clearly dead wrong about that one. So
I was with you. It just like exactly what you're saying, just off of goodwill of the original. But I guess that 5-year gap, especially since Aquaman was already relatively isolated from the rest of feeling interconnected.
that's
The fact that it didn't
decade. DJ, I was in my mid-20s when Aquaman came.
Yeah, it's wild.
That junket in New York City. That's like that was so long ago. They lost all goodwill and a million other things. And I don't think the Amber Heard situation helped either. I'm calling it that because I do think that a lot of people were so bitter about everything that happened, and they didn't. And Warner Brothers was so timid about using her for press or anything either. I think that it didn't help gain traction for the movie. And the Johnny Depp fans are just truly nutso. So.
Yeah, and I think that that definitely, and that I feel like you could argue that is like the people that would be really angry about it are isolated to Twitter, and general audiences wouldn't have cared, but it definitely impacted in the final product. Like you can feel it, like it felt like one of those things that like. Pick a lane. Either she's in the movie or not in the movie. Like, you just need to make a decision. And I'm going to be honest with you. If you decided to hitch your wagon to Ezra Miller, you should have just committed that Amber Heard's in this movie.
Right.
And done the movie you shot. But, whatever. Nobody asked me.
Right. I'm just saying that Warner Brothers, I think, let that really affect them in multiple different ways. It's not the biggest impact of why the movie didn't do well, but there's 50 reasons that the movie didn't perform.
And one of the other ones is, we talk about the 5-year gap. COVID's a part of that, obviously. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of things that worked against it. And I do think there were things they could have done to benefit their situation. Ooh, Roxy, I wish I could. You're going to watch it, so I won't. But I wish I could tell you what a wet fart sound the post-credit scene is.
So there is a post-credit scene, but it doesn't have
There is a post-credit scene, but it's just a dumb joke.
Is it a cameo or no?
No.
Okay.
There's not one cameo. And it feels like at least do something as innocuous as like the shawarma scene at the end of Avengers. Like, hey, all our people, have them in. You set up, I think, in both cuts of Justice League, they set up like the Hall of Justice. Like, hey, this room is going to be the Hall of Justice. Look at the big table. Have them sitting at the table. I do something that says, hey, it was a mess, but here, Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is here. Why? Who gives a fuck? This is what we did. You know what I mean? Do something, and instead it's just
Didn't we see Joe Manganiello on a boat
at the end of Justice League. Have him back.
Earthquake, DJ.
Are we? Oh yeah, a little bit. You're probably a little closer to it than I am. You're welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our earthquake.
Okay, it's done.
Is it done? All right, cool. Get under solid objects, everybody. If you're in an earthquake, people say the door thing. That's not the door can slam on you. It's not that great. Yeah, you just want a get under solid object. This table in front of me would be where I'd go. Anyway, Discord questions. Let's see where we want to start with this. Let's start with this. This is as we're putting the DCEU to bed. Mike Joyce asks, where do you think the DCEU went wrong? Was Zack Snyder the wrong choice?
It's like literally I've never heard a question setting us up for failure more than that.
Well, listen, I'll take the bait. Yes, I think he was. And not necessarily, I have my quibbles with him as a filmmaker. But I think just for audience response, like I feel like here in the future, it is safe to say that Zack Snyder's a divisive filmmaker. That's not what you want if you're trying to set up a universe of interconnected movies. And I think one of the issues was, I feel like a Kevin Feige would have looked at the divisive response of Man of Steel and been like, all right, let's get in a new director for a couple of these movies and see what people respond. I do think there's an argument to be made where you could have done like a Justice League, done a Justice League movie and then spin off the characters from that as opposed to build up. Mm-hmm. The benefit of the build up one is, let's say before Batman v Superman or before Justice League, we did have Wonder Woman. Let's say they did a Superman, a Batman, and a Wonder Woman. And then Zack Snyder did Superman, and that response was divisive. But Patty Jenkins did her Wonder Woman, and that was really great. It's like, all right, well, maybe we're going to go more in the Patty Jenkins direction because that's what audiences are responding to, than like doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on a filmmaker that isn't making you the money you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I will say on that, DJ, what's so difficult is that I don't know that we could call Zack Snyder divisive until after this. It's not like before this he was the most divisive filmmaker. And additionally, I would say the same thing, but I actually think that Wonder Woman 84 aged so fucking poorly. When I watched it the first time during the pandemic, I was like, oh, okay, I like this movie. It wasn't the first one, but I actually think the movie is rather problematic. And I'm kind of shocked with how much I disliked it upon rewatch and was like, ooh, I don't dig this movie. I think that the reason I'm saying that is that if you did double down and just say, yeah, let's go in the Patty direction, and I think Patty Jenkins is a brilliant filmmaker, but I don't know that she had a good grasp on the DCEU either. So I think she had a really good grasp on the character of Wonder Woman. Yeah. But the more involved she got, the less that I liked the second movie. So just I'm not sure. I think that it suffered from what Star Wars' sequels suffered from, which is a lack of communication amongst filmmakers. People did not seem like they were on the same page about what was going on in DC. We had some contradictory character choices. You know, there's a lot of people who will be like, oh, I like Flash better in this movie than in this movie. I like Batman better in this movie than this movie. I like Superman better in this movie than in this movie. And it's not based on character development. It's based on the fact that they're playing different characters because there's no communication and they're trying to go off the script, right? So I don't know. I absolutely can't blame Snyder for all of the DCEU. I think there was no major game plan. I think that they didn't have a Feige, which I'm not saying they needed Feige, but somebody overseeing the process. And that
functionally a showrunner. You needed a showrunner.
You need a showrunner for the universe you were creating. And that wasn't Zack Snyder's job. That's not what he was brought in to do. Yeah. So, I think that now we have that. And hopefully moving forward, we've got gold.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And even to the degree that not just that like Gunn and Safran are the Feige, but the fact that like, here's our writers. We're taking pictures with our writers. Here are the people. Here's our brain trust. And it's like, okay. So literally we have photographic evidence that these people are sitting in a room talking to each other. You know what I mean? So I think you made a really good point. And to your point, it's like, okay, well, this, and also for me, when somebody like James Gunn is like, we're not going to cast until a script is written. It's like, oh my God, really? Oh my God. That's so nice.
And that should be no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah.
But it's
not. Should be. And it definitely feels Gunn coming from the MCU world. It feels kind of like a pointed, like, hey, by the way, this is something we're doing. That I'm not calling out any names. I'm just saying we're doing it this way, as opposed to maybe other people, but I won't say. Jake Hefner asks, since a common consensus is the DCU was largely more bad than good, is there any aspect of it that you hope gets brought forward to the new stuff, or should it just be relegated as being a lesson in what not to do?
I mean, I don't think we should move forward with any of the actors. Obviously, I think the characters should be brought forward because those are our people. And I think that one of the things that I really hope gets brought forward is the fact that, we had a Wonder Woman movie before we had a Black Widow movie. That's crazy. And
We had a Harley Quinn movie before we had a Black Widow movie.
And the Harley Quinn movie didn't do particularly well, even though I thought it was awesome. And I think that movie.
And in its defense, it was right before the pandemic.
Right. It was February, right? Just saying, I think people, audiences were like, F this movie. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's actually a funny, good movie. But
it's a really good movie. I like it a lot.
But fine. The thing that I'm hoping moves forward is that, and this is going to be so femme sounding, but women superheroes can hold their own. And DC seems to, at least they did seem to acknowledge and know that. My favorite movie by far in the DCEU was Wonder Woman. I thought it had the most heart, and I loved the soul and the power and the softness that we brought to the character with the little moments like, oh, it's a baby, and still letting her feel all of the questions about like men, sexuality when they're on the boat, just such great scenes and moments, and then having her just be the absolute most badass as Wonder Woman is supposed to be. I really hope that we are able to have another, specifically Wonder Woman, who's awesome, but also a Supergirl that's awesome. Our next versions of the Gotham City Sirens, which is obviously less hero based, but still just that we go with some dope chicas, because Marvel did such a shit job with that. Not that they didn't create characters that I really like. Wanda was my favorite until what they did, but just that they were like, these are ancillary characters on the outskirts, as opposed to we center anything around them. And I think that DC hopefully realizes like, oh, okay, that's something that we can really use moving forward.
To your point, we're going to talk about this in What If. You want to check out What If, patreon.com/onlystupid-answers. But on what we're into, I'm going to talk about What If and what we're into.
I got what you were saying. It was so many, so many questions.
So many what's, what we're into. I want to talk about What If and what we're into. If you want to listen to what we're into, patreon.com/onlystupid-answers. Got it. But to your point, a lot of like characters like Nebula and Peggy Carter, their best stuff is in What If. Like their best, most interesting stuff is in an animated series. It's like, you should have given Nebula more to do in those movies. Anyway.
And instead, what Marvel is doing is they're moving forward with Agatha. Like, what?
Fucking wild.
That's who's getting a show? Agatha?
Yeah, I guess because Wanda was so well received, which also kind of, WandaVision was so well received, which is still kind of weird to me. But
so weird to me. I don't get that. And she's my favorite character.
Yeah, but to your point, and just on I agree with you completely. And just on a practical level, like, Wonder Woman and Harley Quinn made you money and were easily the best received of the characters, and also to the degree that it is very, unless Zoe Kravitz didn't want to do it, I don't know why we're getting a Penguin show and not a Catwoman show. It's like, Catwoman's a bigger name. Zoe Kravitz was great in the role. Catwoman has had her own book for decades at this point.
Yeah.
Give me that movie or show. Why are we doing a Penguin? Nothing against Colin Farrell's Penguin, but why aren't we getting a Catwoman spinoff anyway?
Totally.
I totally agree with that. I think you should look at the Wonder Woman movie to the point when you're talking about it. It's like, I wonder if that did do the sequel a disservice, because it takes place like 40 to 50 years later. Mm-hmm. And so now you don't get the fun aspect of somebody out of their own world learning our world. She's been here for decades. She knows everything. And so that is less playful, at least, than the first Wonder Woman. But look at that movie. Look, I agree with Roxy that it's like, if we're going to recast, just recast. The only one I think you get a pass on is Blue Beetle, because he didn't share the screen with any of our previous casts. So for all we know, the Blue Beetle movie takes place in the new universe. But as much as Margot Robbie she excels at everything, but excelled in the role of Harley Quinn, defined that role for a lot of people. It's like, it's time, let's do something new. You know what I mean? Like, also, I'm sure she's down to, like, she's doing other things. She's doing fine. She doesn't need Harley Quinn.
When you and I were dream casting for all of the roles, Harley Quinn was the absolute easiest one to dream cast for. And that has nothing to do with Margot Robbie not being great. She's a stud, but throw a rock and you could find a killer actress to play Harley Quinn. She's not that specific. You could go with somebody of really so many different kind of looks.
Yeah.
And it's a fun role that people would want to dig their teeth into. So
Yeah.
there's some more challenging roles to cast sometimes. That's not one of them.
That's not one of them. Leonard Kim asks, based on what you know so far, do you predict that Superman Legacy, we were already discussing this, Superman Legacy will end up restoring faith in the public's perception of DC or hurting DC's image even further? Just to add to what we were saying, I think it is almost literally impossible for Superman Legacy to hurt DC's image further. Not that a new Superman movie couldn't. It's just one with this pedigree. I just really think it'd be everybody involved would have to forget all of their previous work and what they're doing and how to do it. That would be too many. Even if I don't like it, it can't possibly hurt DC's reputation any further. Will it restore faith in public? I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I think based on, and I even like Guardians 3. I unlike everybody else, I had mixed feelings on the Guardians movies, but I did like Guardians 3 a lot. I like Suicide Squad a lot. I like Peacemaker a lot. I think there is, if audiences are still receptive to superhero movies, I think there is a chance. I do think it's a little weird. We spent a lot of time talking about Wonder Woman, and I had to realize, like, wait, we're going to get a Themyscira TV show and not a Wonder Woman movie. And that feels a little weird to me. Like, so hopefully, some of those choices are pretty well thought out. And I'm a little worried, like, we compared the new Green Lantern show to True Detective. And it's like, that's something that I feel like Gunn should be aware of, and maybe he won't be. You need to pay attention to the Green Lantern show shouldn't be R-rated. Your core Justice League people should all be like PG-13. Suicide Squad, maybe you can make R, but like your core Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, those should all be pretty accessible. If you're like, Superman's PG-13, but the Green Lantern shows R, it's like, that's tricky.
Are we going Cyborg again?
I no announcements that I know of. If as a fan, I would love like a Teen Titans or a Titans thing and have him hanging out with Nightwing and the rest. I like Cyborg better in the Titans than the Justice League personally. But Ray Fisher's in Rebel Moon, and he's good in it for all of the 10 minutes he's in that movie.
Yeah. I going to the initial question, I agree with you totally. On everything you just said. And the only reason that I just asked that is I'm just thinking about all different avenues that they could possibly be taking. And like, as you're talking about keeping everybody PG, family friendly, I guess, other than the characters that might call for something else. I'm going through everybody in my head thinking if there's anybody else other than Blue Beetle we could pull forward with us. And I guess that Ray Fisher would be the only one that I feel like maybe they could move forward with, which would be a fascinating choice.
Yeah, I would hazard at this point he wouldn't do it. But he's very good. He's very talented, and it'll be interesting to see. There's already rumors that Jason Momoa has been cast in a different role in the DCEU, and that'll be interesting if they do that. If they like bring back people in different roles.
He's been talking about Lobo stuff a little bit more recently too. I've been seeing in press, and
I've been hearing some murmurs that's where we're going to go. And truthfully, I think he'd be a better fit for that than traditional Aquaman.
I think that's what he thinks too. His most recent interview, I think he said like, I initially thought that I was being cast as Lobo and not Aquaman because I think that's perfect or whatever. And I was like, oh, is he angling or what's happening here?
What's going on there? I will say the only other thing that might be tricky is we've got a lot of Justice League character announcements for Superman Legacy. And one of the complaints, fair or not, about the original DCU is that they rushed too headlong into, and it's like, we got a Guy Gardner in a Superman movie. Hold on, maybe we're moving too fast, everybody.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yep. Please don't suck, DC.
Please. Who suffered so long? Listen, this is the new year. Now's the perfect time to be hopeful. We're going to be hopeful. And on that note, Roxy, what should the kids be looking out for from you?
You know, I'm really excited because I'm part of this new awesome movie that you guys are going to be able to help support called Gunplay. And that's what they should be looking out for. Yes, throw up that banner. Go make sure
Please.
that you click on the notify me when launch happens. You just go to gunplaymovie.com. Be on the lookout for that. And then I did an interview for CW this week about
What?
Always Lola, which I was stoked about,
That's
which
wild.
was very cool. Thanks to my friend Brad Gilmore, who's the best. And he just during the show messaged me that it dropped. So I'll be posting that too, which is cool.
Take a look at that. Did you, when you were doing it, you're like, hey, so what, CW, what do y'all do now? What do you do? What?
During this conversation, DJ, I've just been thinking to myself, like, I miss television, like, I know that it got tough at the end, but remember when Supergirl and Flash and Arrow were bomb?
Yeah, it is easy to forget when you talk about these DCUs. Like, well, we did have Arrow and the Flash and Supergirl and Legends Tomorrow, so it's not like we were completely left in the cold. It'd just be nice.
It was
like
fun.
These characters, and they didn't let us have Batman and Superman. Well, they did let us have There's a Superman show on, and I stopped watching it after one season.
I stopped watching it too, and that's a bummer because it was good.
It was good. You can find me at DJ Talks Trash, as Roxy just so eloquently mentioned. Gunplaymovie.com. Hit that notify me on launch button. It would make our hearts grow 2 sizes. And you can find me at DJ Talks Trash and follow this show everywhere that matters at Only Stupid Answers, but on Twitter/X.
You ain't got the vowels from stupid.
I just want it to become Twitter again. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time.